There's a time and place where your need for a buttonhole is bigger than the standard buttonhole foot. So I'm going to show you how you can actually make a manual buttonhole, and it could be this big or it could even be this big. Your choice, but you have a foot 3C that comes with the Bernina 880. It is pre-noted that the grooves underneath will help you stay nice and lined up. So as you travel back and forth, the little grooves will keep your stitches perfectly parallel. And there has been a couple times I have needed to make an opening in a fabric that pretty much required a gigantic buttonhole. And I remember making one very big for a very unique project, and this was my lifesaver. So we were just doing the automatic buttonhole with the 3A foot. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off and then put the 3C foot on. But here's how we're going to go about it. You can actually do any of these buttonholes manually. I am going to go ahead and do number 51. But I do need to hop over and tell the machine that I'll be using the 3C foot for our choice today, and that way it will be happy with my selection. Shows you that foot in place. So with this, we actually get to record our own length, and you're noticing a kind of a reverse button blinking on screen. So the first time that we start to sew, we're going to sew a leg to the length we need it to be. So if it's going to be, say, 4 inches long, then we're going to sew that leg out, and then we'll be touching our reverse button right here, and that will set the length. Then the machine will know when to turn around to the next step, and it will then record our length that we're doing. So there's actually 2 ways to do a manual buttonhole. By what I was just describing, it will record the length so it could actually repeat it again. It's actually counting stitches. So if we take it this far and it counted, say, 99 stitches, then that way it can do that length of buttonhole over again. Now, if you have a very specific buttonhole and you don't know how long it needs to be, you can go into the I for information and touch manual. So manual allows you to then choose each of the steps as you stitch them. So when you actually get down as far as you need to go, you can touch to the next step. So you're like activating each of those turnaround points throughout the buttonhole until you as you come all the way down, and then as you come all the way back, and then all the way down again. So this is also a great way if you ever need to repair a buttonhole, or maybe you did a buttonhole and it just didn't turn out right, and you just needed to fix like the tack at the top. You could actually just come in here, touch man, I know that's funny, touch man, and then it'll be ready to do just the tack in place, or just the right leg again. Again, you can fill it in to the length that you need it to be. Like I said, if you ended up with half a buttonhole and you goofed something, the manual choice of creating a buttonhole will allow me to go back in and get a perfectly added leg to this. So let's just go ahead and do 2 marks on the fabric, and I'm going to be in the record 1, 2, 3 section. So I'm going to go ahead and lower my presser foot down so I can see the first little mark in through that area. I'm going to touch the start-stop button and go ahead and stitch out this buttonhole. I'll go a little slow here. So I'm actually going to touch the reverse button on the fly. As soon as I see that line come up, I'm going to touch the reverse button. But just note that as you go backwards, you're going to need to touch the reverse button again. So you're locking in the length. So you might go a little slower and then activate it right at the top there. And I went just a hair a little bit past, but I was kind of sewing a little bit quickly. But this is how easy it is to kind of program in your own buttonhole. Yes, touch that reverse button a stitch before you get past that last little guy. I still love how these look in a variegated thread. Now, if you look at the screen after you do a manual buttonhole like that, you will notice that it says 27.2 millimeters is what it actually took. hook for that length, and it says auto. So I could actually go ahead and now have that stitched out as many times as I need all the way through my project. But I do want to walk you through how we do it with the manual buttonhole, or even if I wanted to actually go in and fix that kind of L-shaped buttonhole I have on screen. Remember, each time I sew, I'm going to choose a new step, so I'll be in charge of each of these steps as I'm stitching out. So as it stitches, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of stop it as I need it to be. So there's a stop, and then I'll choose the next step. Now again, each of these steps is all about me choosing when to stop, so make sure that you are watching where you're going, and then choose each of the steps. Again, you can go in, super easy to get the exact location of where all your parts and pieces are going to be. There was my tack at the end. It was pre-programmed just to do a few little steps. It's the legs and the return trip that you have to kind of be in charge of watching when to physically stop the machine from sewing. Again, this is how you get those super long ones. And then here's our tack at the bottom, and then I'm pushing start. And then don't forget, there's one little guy at the very, very end. That's the locking stitch. So make sure you hook the locking stitch in there. Perfect. Let's cut the thread. We'll take a look. Again, you can choose to do automatic buttonholes with the 3A foot, or you can do manual buttonholes with the 3C foot, and they'll all turn out beautiful.